Are live.
Welcome to the CrackBerry.com podcast for Friday, September 15th, 2017.
Hey everybody, CrackBerry Kevin here, joined by Blaze and Adam for a fun post-IFA Berlin, post-Kevin visits New York City for a couple days. Black Edition, KEYone, everything in between, including a little Krypton chatter. CrackBerry podcast, sponsored by... I don't know if we have any sponsors, but let's just say BlackBerry KEYone. It's kind of out there getting into more and more markets all over the place. And it seems like there's more inventory available. So if you've been jonesing for a BlackBerry KEYone, go get one now. Do it and join the club. It's a lot of fun because I know Blaze is rocking a KEYone.
Yes.
What color is it?
Mine, unfortunately, mine's still silver. I don't have a black one yet.
Oh, I got a black one. I got a black one. So what I realized is, last week I was in New York and I went for an interview at the New York Stock Exchange with the folks from Cheddar. And since that went up, I still, like a week later, I keep receiving compliments about how that interview went. And people are like, Kevin, that was the greatest BlackBerry interview of all time. You should have been made CEO in 2009 and things like that. It was very, very kind. Lots of ex-BlackBerry people, CrackBerry people. I've never seen such kind remarks on anything we've ever done. So what I've concluded is I'm a horrible podcaster, but I'm not bad at being interviewed. So I'm just gonna let you guys interview me when you want me to talk, and I'm just gonna not talk otherwise. So Adam and Blaze, you guys can run the show. Congratulations.
I wish I'd known that ahead of time. I would have prepared better, but
no,
Yeah.
it's more fun.
Thanks for the heads up.
No!
the CrackBerry's falling. There's some sign in there buried deep inside. Oh boy.
Yeah.
For those who didn't see it on video, the CrackBerry clock fell off the wall.
Somebody's gonna make a GIF out of that after this is over. I guarantee it. Probably gonna be Blaze, but that's okay. So let's dive right in. Let's talk BlackBerry KEYone Black Edition all over the place, except for Canada.
Well, Canada should actually be coming before the end of the month too, so that'll be interesting. That it's whenever it actually gets there. I think it's the 24th, but I don't want to put that actual date out there without fully knowing.
I was worried that was going to happen. The CrackBerry clock fell off.
You're like falling apart, dropping the clock, losing the jacket. Stuff's going down. So the BlackBerry KEYone Black Edition is in, I guess the biggest one is the US right now. It started out at AT&T, right?
No, here's where things get all convoluted. So
how do you not know this, Adam? I wrote an article.
I don't read your posts. Sorry.
I mean, realistically, even though that you did write the article, which was a very beautiful and well laid out article, by the way, it doesn't matter because most people, it's so convoluted that it's really hard to keep track of. So AT&T basically gets their own version of the Black Edition. They get the Space Black version. That's it. That's the AT&T version. That's the only one.
Well, I think you already went wrong. Technically, they just have a black colored version of the original KEYone with three.
Ryan, you didn't ever let me get there.
Well, because you introduced it wrong, because you led it the wrong way. You can't say it's their own version of the Black Edition.
You're not supposed to speak until spoken to.
No. This is still, that's not how it works.
Well, he wrote the post, so he can go ahead and speak.
I'm the expert commentary here, Adam. You should absolutely let me speak.
Even though in his own post he did mess up and say that it was coming to the US, but
well, I think it will at some point. What we know is it's not announced yet, but I would assume it's going to. Has that been proven wrong? No.
That depends on who you ask.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think people based in the US are going to find ways to buy them anyways. So,
well, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'd assume it's going to come at some point. I mean, okay. So let's regroup.
Let's start over.
And Adam, why don't you ask me the question? Kevin, can you please understand to me how the Black Edition stuff is working? Because I'm confused.
I still have this silver edition BlackBerry that I imported from the UK, and I'm no longer on AT&T, so I'm dying to get a hold of the Black Edition, but I don't know how to go about that in the US. Can you please explain to me what the situation is?
Sure. Thanks for that great question, Adam. I'm glad you asked it.
Happy to be here.
The rollout of the black version of the KEYone has many flavors depending where in the world you're located. So let me go through it in no particular order, but we will address your question in regards to the United States market specifically. So as we all know, the silver edition is the BlackBerry KEYone that got teased in January, announced at Mobile World Congress, and that we've all been spending a lot of time talking about for many, many months this year, and now using for many, many months. And now we have a black version of the KEYone, which looks like this. So regardless of the iteration I'm going to mention in the next couple of minutes, physically, you know, when you look at it from the outside, it looks the same. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Adam, you're not looking at my screen right now. You can't see how gorgeous. You've seen it. You attest to its gorgeousness.
Yeah, I can.
And here's how it works. So there are a few hardware configurations for it. One is, let's call it the actual black edition phone. So this is the global black edition. It is the same as the silver edition in every respect, except that it's black, but it also has an extra gig of RAM, 4 gigs of RAM, and it has 64 gigs of memory. Otherwise, it is the same phone. And this is the black edition that's coming to Canada. It's coming to some European markets. I believe it went up for pre-order for sale now in Germany, like in the last 24 hours. And that's that. Now, also, you'll remember the first black KEYone we spotted was actually in India by Optimus via TCL, aka BlackBerry Mobile. So that is the same version, except the SKU that they ordered, I guess, or bought or worked with TCL to produce for the India market, only distributed by Optimus, not TCL BlackBerry Mobile. It's the same, 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, but it also has a dual SIM card slot. So it's a slightly different flavor again, and that's not called the Black Edition. It's called, I think, the Limited Edition Black is the way it's referred to. So a little bit different. If you track down one of those phones, because let's say you just really want a dual SIM version of the KEYone, keep in mind, if you have any support issues or anything, it's going to go back to Optimus in India. It can't go to any of the other sort of globally supported markets that BB Mobile / TCL is handling. So that's number 2. Number 3, most people don't know this one, but I'll just throw it in for extra confusion, because I was at the Beijing launch event where they brought BlackBerry back to China through the partnership with JD.com, which is kind of like their Amazon out there. And they announced just the BlackBerry KEYone because it was the brand new launch, but they actually launched with this phone in the 4 gig, 64 gigs of storage model. So effectively, they launched the Black Edition there, but they didn't even throw on the name Black Edition because they didn't have to. They just called it the KEYone. So if you're in China, it's just the KEYone, but it is the Black Edition. What's interesting is I think somewhere around me, I think it's my laptop bag over there, I have one of those units that I brought home, but it's actually a silver one, but it has all the Chinese apps on it, right? So it doesn't launch with any of the Google stuff because none of that actually works on that side of the Great Firewall of China. So there's no Gmail or anything like that on it. And instead it's got I think Weibo and WeChat and all those apps are preloaded. So it's kind of interesting to see a different flavor of the KEYone that us on this call would truly appreciate, but for that market, totally awesome. So now coming to the US, there is a black KEYone available now from AT&T, but it is the BlackBerry KEYone in Space Black, not the Black Edition, Space Black. And it's a 3 GB RAM, 32 gig storage. So effectively the original silver one in black, and actually a little bit cheaper. I think it's $500 outright retail price instead of the $550 the KEYone kind of launched with in the US. So actually a steal of a deal, because the Black Edition is typically running for about $100 more because of that extra storage and memory on it. But at this time, there's no official date for the Black Edition, the 4 gig, 64 gig model to hit the US. But I'm assuming it's going to happen at some point. I mean, again, this launch has been very much, to me, it's been reminiscent of the old days of BlackBerry. And I think the best example is if we think about phones like the BlackBerry Curve, where you used to have various iterations of here's the Curve 8300, the 8310, this one's an AT&T exclusive, this one's not, this color is only on this carrier, this is here, this is here. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing now, because obviously BB Mobile wants to get these phones back in stores. They want to get it back in front of people's faces. And, you know, the last few years, what you saw BlackBerry do was kind of just throw things up online on shopblackberry.com and kind of sell through those channels and kind of lose all that retail store presence that really helps reach, you know, billions of people around the globe, because when they go to the stores, they frequent the carriers, they see them there, versus having to know about it and go to a website. And, you know, obviously when you strike up these deals, you know, there's probably concessions you make from time to time. So, you know, you can almost just play the events in your mind, right? It's like, okay, you're BlackBerry Mobile, you're trying to sell the, you know, KEYone into the US market. You know, Sprint picks it up, and then AT&T is probably like, well, you know, what are we going to do that's special with our KEYone? And they're probably like, well, you can have it in a different color. And then it's like, okay, cool. And it's like, do you want the black edition? And maybe they're like, no, I don't know. We'll take the 3 gig 32. And it's like, why not just take the black edition? And it's like, I don't know. And, you know, my hope is they just change their mind, and maybe like the AT&T also launches the black one soon or something. But you know, I don't know where things are at.
I think at this point, if it was just available online, people would appreciate that more than anything else.
Well, yeah, but that all comes back to, you know, whatever deals get struck, right? And, you know, we've seen this before with lots of phones from lots of manufacturers and different carriers. It's like, you know, why does Samsung only ever launch the Galaxy, you know, S active, like the hard, you know, the rough and tumble version of their S8s or S7s with AT&T? You know, it never comes to anybody else in the US. It's only ever like there. And I'm sure there's people on other carriers who are like, this is stupid, sell it here. But it's like, if you want that phone, you buy it from AT&T. It's just the thing that's evolved. And, you know, that's the case here. Now, in Kevin's perfect world, right, if I was like making all the decisions around BlackBerry devices, I mean, I do think I would have called it something like the BlackBerry KEYone World Edition, and then maybe gone all out with like the dual SIM card slot, and the extra memory and storage, like they did, and then just sell it, like try to sell it everywhere, or make it as, you know, widely available as possible, and maybe even charge more for it. Like maybe do something else that could drive the price up. So if the KEYone, you know, started at $550 US normal, like even go higher, go like, okay, here's the World Edition, dual SIM card slots, you know, 128 gigs of storage or something like that. And I don't know if you know, you can't start switching like displays or processors, because then it's not like a, you know, then it's another real like device to support, versus just bumping up some of the things that are already supported a little bit more. But I think people would, you know, pay for that, right? I know we would all pay for it. I think there's a lot of hardcore BlackBerry people who just go.
When you say World Edition, it makes me think, because that was my first ever BlackBerry that got me into the BlackBerry world, was the 8830. But so it's kind of like the opposite, I think, because the original GSM 8830 was an all black version. That was just the 8830. And then the Verizon model was the 8830 World Edition, I think, which was silver. So it's like the opposite of the KEYone.
Who had the red one? Remember there was a red one after?
I think there was, yeah, I mean, I only really remember, and I remember because I got the regular 8830 and then I like switched the doors on them or something. So I had like a silver battery door, and I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Red automatically indicates Verizon. So
yeah.
Yeah, it must have been right, big red.
I think so.
So sorry, Adam. So that's a really long, complicated. I mean, it's not complicated. It is a.
No, it's a good answer.
No,
it's
complicated.
It's not your fault. It's complicated.
Yeah. Now I think the good news is, if like you just live someplace and you're not like consuming all the things, you'll just see what's available in your market and you won't care too much. But if you care a lot, like all of us do, and the CrackBerry audience does, and then you take it all in, then you're like, oh my God, there's so much to parse through here.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that makes it confusing is, you know, like if you're a CrackBerry fan or you're a BlackBerry geek, where you're following every single thing and you're digging in and like you want to know every single model and where you can get it and what's going to work for your carrier. But like you said, to the average consumer, it's like if you live in India, you're going to get, you know, whichever one they have there. If you are an AT&T customer in the US, you're going to buy the AT&T one. Like you're not going to maybe even not know about the other models, you know, let alone care which one you're getting. So I think for all intents and purposes, like it's not meant to be confusing, and it doesn't have to be confusing unless you're like super geeky and into it, in which case it could be terribly confusing.
Exactly. But I do think the, you know, getting the Space Black from AT&T is a pretty good deal. Like the pricing is pretty solid on that. And, you know, if you like the black, I mean, we've taken some polls and informal, you know, lots of informal Instagram posts asking people like silver or black. And it's actually about a 50-50. It's really interesting to see how people weigh in on which one they like better. But I will say the people who like the black one better, they love the black one better. They're like no contest, the black one wins.
See, I still haven't held the black one, but I think I like the black one better. And I'm surprised that more people don't like the black, I think.
How did you not? We were together on Friday in New York. We got
Yeah,
really
but
drunk. You didn't play with my KEYone?
Well, because I mean, it's just a different color. I looked at it.
You didn't actually pick it up?
I didn't touch it. But I wanted to say we have to give a shout out to our good friend Obai, because he was like disappeared into the Android world for years and years, and then he actually went and got a KEYone from AT&T. And I think he tweeted Kevin, and he was like, this is so amazing. I'm back on BlackBerry, blah, 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 blah. Yes. And he was a white guy years ago. He was all about the white devices like Kevin was, but he's like, I don't care. It's not white. It's black. It's amazing. And I was messaging him the other day, and he was like so excited. And I was like, the only thing that could make it more amazing is if it had the actual 9900 keyboard on it. And then he got mad at me because he's like, I never thought of it, but now that I do, I kind of want that keyboard. And now I know. I was like, yeah, sorry.
Sorry to ruin the experience for you.
So now he's like, oh, I can't stop saying that keyboard. I'm like, whatever. But anyway,
that's awesome. No, it's nice to see that happening. There's, I talked about this in the interview with Cheddar, and it's been really interesting to see. Like, back in February, March. I mean, I think we're all optimistic that the device is good. It looked like it was good, but would it hold up over time? Would people react to it who bought it? I mean, there's been some teething pains here and there, and we've talked those to death on previous podcasts, so I won't rehash them all. But I think overall we're starting to see like really good positive sentiment, and kind of like this, it's bringing back a lot of old people who left BlackBerry, and it's getting some recognition. Like even in New York, it was funny. Like as I was going into the New York Stock Exchange, the security dude, he's like, empty your pockets, throw your phone out, and he looks, and you throw it in a tray, and you go through, and he looks, and he's like, is that the new KEYone? And then he's like, picks it up. He's like, yeah, I bought my wife the silver one like 2 weeks ago. She loves it. And he's like, oh, I haven't seen this one in person yet. And he starts playing with my KEYone right there. And same thing happened at the airport. I had airport security, and all these guys see phones coming through left, all day long, right? So then when they see them, they're like excited. I landed in Toronto coming home from Berlin, and I had an Air Canada employee like chase me through the airport a little bit because he spotted me, I guess. He's like, Kevin, he's like, oh, I finally tracked you down here. He's like, I've always been curious if, because you'll see if I'm coming through, on Twitter and that kind of thing. And then I showed him the KEYone, and he was super jacked to see it. So I'm like, you're getting, like, I haven't seen this for years, right? And it starts small, but it starts to grow, and you're starting to see that come back. And obviously you need good phones, because if you don't have good phones, it's not going to happen. And you need, obviously BB10 had some good phones, but it had no app, so it held it from back from a lot of people. But there's definitely a continued future here, which is exciting.
Yeah, there's also marketing, which BlackBerry was pretty terrible at. It kind of helps.
Yeah, there's probably lots more to do, right? But
letting people know your device exists is pretty crucial to selling phones.
But I mean, there's still, like, every day, I still have conversations with people who don't know yet, that BlackBerry's back with new phones, right? Like, it's going to take time, I think, or it takes some sort of event that goes global. It's like, BlackBerry's back, and here's our new phone, and 8 billion people know.
It's hard to explain to people too, because I went out to lunch with my buddy Tom today, and he was asking me about the KEYone and stuff, and trying to say, like, it's BlackBerry, but it's not BlackBerry because it's this company that makes the BlackBerry, but at the same time, it doesn't have the BlackBerry software. So like, it's running the same Android that you have on the phone that you use every day. It's just got this, and this that's better. So trying to explain it to him that it's not like a BlackBerry in the general sense, where it's BlackBerry hardware, BlackBerry software, BlackBerry apps.
So this is the one time where, Research in Motion, it would have been really convenient if they just stuck with that name, because then Research in Motion would say, hey, Research in Motion is now a software company, and we do all these things that are software, and BlackBerry phones still exist. Instead, you have John Chen, CEO of BlackBerry, going on TV and stuff saying like, yeah, BlackBerry is now a software company. Hardware business is over. We don't do it anymore. And then you have, everybody trying to drum up excitement for the KEYone, right? And it's like, what? I thought the guy just said we don't do hardware. Now you're saying we do hardware. And, at the time it made a lot of sense when they did the switch. I think we predicted it should happen, kind of thing. Because it was confusing to that story, and now it's confusing to the other story.
Yeah, it's a totally different story now, and it's still just as confusing. So
it's like, it's edit undo, edit undo, edit undo. BlackBerry is now research in motion, a software company. Again.
Reset.
BlackBerry phone's still awesome. Again. Reset.
But I mean, we all knew that was coming anyways, especially when it comes down to like the naming and the brands and BlackBerry Mobile, and then you have Optimus putting out BlackBerry devices. I knew that was going to be problematic for, the majority of people to get into their heads going out of the gates, because you have so many different people that are in the mix with it. But when you really start breaking it down, it's only, the companies get smaller in terms of names, but it's still hard to explain to people. Like, yeah, you're still getting a BlackBerry, but it's just being manufactured by somebody else, blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's just like, well, iPhones are manufactured by Foxconn.
Yeah.
But I mean, BlackBerry used to work with Flextronics. Like, it's kind of, when you get down,
it's all inside baseball. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right? Did you know that the screen and the silicon in the new, iPhone X is actually made by Samsung? What? Boom! Like, people go. At the end of the day, it's a lot of little components, and then you package it all up, and BlackBerry. Everybody adds their flavors.
Well, judging by the latest,
but BlackBerry's got a pretty solid flavor, though.
True.
Judging by the latest, Apple likes BlackBerry's flavor too.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that.
Apple,
that's a good.
That's an amazing segue.
Yeah. Especially with I don't know, man. I'm sure we all tuned into the keynote at some point in time to sit down and watch it. But as I was sitting there watching it, unveiling, they're showing all these things and they're sliding through and gestures and this and that. And it's like, I'm pretty sure BlackBerry did this 5 years ago. What are you guys on about? There ain't nothing revolutionary here.
Yeah, and what's funny though is then, on Twitter, for example, Twitter blew up, right? And it's like, oh my God, they ripped this off. And I retweeted one guy who tweeted me a little screen cap of them showing off the gestures on the iPhone X, or the iPhone 10, sorry. Is it the X or the 10? I keep reading X.
I've called it the X nonstop. I don't give a shit.
See, Apple their branding's confusing too.
They screwed up their branding.
So I retweeted. I got hundreds of retweets and likes from all the BlackBerry people who are like, yeah, this is ripping off. But then it's hilarious because then on Twitter, then the fighting almost starts. If you go one depth deeper, it's the WebOS people, because really they're like, well, no, BlackBerry 10 did nothing there. They just copied WebOS. So then it's like, who wins the battle? And I'm joking. I'm like, they didn't sell enough WebOS phones to claim anything.
Yeah. You can even take it one level deeper, and then there's Nokia people who are like, no, that was on the Nokia N9 or something that probably sold in minimal amounts.
I think
it's
did the WebOS phones though? Did they not still have some sort of a home button, or it was completely?
No, I'm pretty sure that they had the how on the iPhone 10 it has that touch bar thing at the very bottom, and I say touch bar because I don't know what to actually call it. It's not really a touch bar, but it's like a little line on the bottom of the screen. Anyways, that was the actual button or whatever on the WebOS devices at the very bottom.
Right. So it actually had a hardware thing you kind of did that gesture over, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I probably have, honestly. If I look in my boxes, I think I have. Oh my God, I see one here from cleaning up my office the other month.
I smell
I'm not surprised that he actually has one.
And of course he knows right where it is.
I just found a Pre-3. We can actually, this is going to be fun.
Re-unboxing of the Pre-3.
Oh my God, it's so small.
Is it charged?
Oh my God.
Does it have a button?
It's a slider. I like a little slider.
Oh my God, that was so cool. It was such a great phone. Not really. I never used it.
You never used that.
I'm going to, I'm assuming the battery is not going to power up, but if this thing powers up, we're going to solve this. This might be for the next podcast. But
so just briefly touching on all the Apple stuff. So they basically announced the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus, which is essentially, I guess, the same phone as last year. Yeah, which is kind of a hopping point to the iPhone 9 that doesn't exist, and then to the iPhone 10, which is this big phone with facial recognition and no home button and a crazy screen and the future of smartphones, and costs $1 bazillion.
I really don't get. I mean, I don't get the whole future of smartphone lines that they were using. Like
Well,
a lot of outlets used it, but it's like it's not really the future of smartphones. It's the future of Apple smartphones, not the future of smartphones in general.
Yeah, look, they make lots of claims. That's Apple. It's like, this is the best, the strongest screen ever in a phone, period. But, like, it's a very Trumpian, actually, sort of like, revisionist history. We claim this is the reality. Like, they say what they want.
Yeah, and we all know that. But, I mean, ultimately, you know, clearly that thing works because nobody is debating the fact that they're going to sell mountains of them. Like, that's not even a question. They're going to sell mountains of them. But
I will say, I think what they did makes sense. Like, the iPhone 8 is obviously kind of like boring to anybody who's more a tech enthusiast because it's really just the 7S. I mean, going to glass back instead of metal to put in wireless charging, and that's a good step. But overall, it's that same you know, slab form factor, right, with a lot of bezel top and bottom. And I think it makes sense though that they do that transition, because if you think of where things are going with the gestures, I mean, takes a lot more to learn, right? Like, the thing about having that home button is, you know, you give it to a 4-year-old, you give it to an 84-year-old, and you know, they learn very quickly to get home. It's a comfort. It seems basic if you're more advanced, and obviously on BB10 we all love our gestures.
Yeah.
Wow, this phone actually powered up, and it's been sitting.
That's crazy.
I don't even know how many years this thing has been sitting for, like several years.
I mean, arguably that's one of the things that hindered BlackBerry 10 anyways, was the fact that it was gesture based. A lot of people didn't know how to use it, and they weren't willing to learn how to use it at that point. It frustrated the fact that it had so many gestures. It frustrated a lot of people.
Cool. No, so I mean, I guess that a question I have for, you know, the CrackBerry audience when they listen to this podcast will be, you know, we know a lot of people love the gestures in BB10. We know that they've, you know, largely gone away now, and as you know, BlackBerry's gone Android. So when you and you know, obviously people have stayed BlackBerry for many years. You know, on BB10, and one of those things is the UI. So it's like, and those same people have hated on Apple in the meantime. So now that you see Apple kind of like rip off, or not rip, whatever you want to say, evolve everybody steals from everybody, but now they've, you know, invented gestures. You know, does that make you like more likely to be like, oh, maybe I'll try an Apple product if you've been like totally dead set against it for the several years past? Truly curious. Let us know in the comments. I'm curious. I don't know. Are you gonna buy one, Blaze?
iPhone 10? No. I can't.
It's expensive though.
I can't justify giving
US.
Apple over $1,000 for a phone. Like, that's
in Canadian. Nothing's gonna hit it like 1,400 or something.
Right. That's
it's gonna be.
That's almost like, well, that's a little over a month's rent for me. What do I want? A roof over my head, or do I want a phone?
So, anything else on the Apple front we want to talk about? Adam, you got it. You're leading the interview here. I feel like you're slacking again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was pretty much it. I just found it interesting, and you know, they kind of put out a phone that was out already, and they added a couple of things. And
there is one thing that I want to add to it that I would, and a lot of people have probably said it as well. I think I read an article on Android Central about it too. Is that Apple, outside of phones, they put out a new Apple TV. And the brand new Apple TV supports 4K. And even though I don't necessarily have a 4K TV yet, basically anything that you've already purchased through iTunes, any of those videos, as long as there's a 4K file available for it, they're automatically upgrading all of your HD videos and stuff like that to 4K. And Google hasn't even done that yet. So I find that a lot of times, like, I'll buy some videos on Google Play or whatever, but if you want like a 4K version, then you're going to have to end up paying Google again, whereas Apple's already doing it. They're just automatically upgrading you to 4K when the capability comes out. So I'd like to see Google take that on and make that part of the Android system.
I had one question that I don't think got answered, although I think I know what the answer is. So they announced the new Apple Watch, I forget, Series 3. Mm-hmm. And now it has a built-in LTE
Phone.
or radio, so
Yeah.
you can use it standalone. You don't need to have your phone with you if you want to go for whatever bike ride, leave your phone at home, that kind of stuff. But they said, you know, it doesn't take a SIM card. It has like a digital SIM card, so I guess it somehow gets programmed in, and it's the same number that's on your phone. So my question is, though, because it is standalone to some extent, is that their way to lock it in so you still need an iPhone no matter what to use that Apple Watch? Or could you actually set one up as like a standalone thing and, you know, still have, like, say, an Android phone, like
I think
a
it works
KEYone, and then have an Apple Watch?
The carriers have
good question.
plan now, like AT&T. I forget what they're called. Like T-Mobile's one is called Digits, I think, and AT&T has the one, but it's basically where it piggybacks off your original SIM. So I don't know that it's tied to the phone necessarily as much as just your main line. But like AT&T has it now for, I don't know, whichever. I think one of the Samsung watches has LTE or something. I forget. But it basically piggybacks off your plan. I think all the carriers have it. I know Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. I forget what they call them specifically, but
so all that stuff was probably preemptive because
Yeah.
they knew that something along those lines was coming anyway.
yeah, for sure. But I think I want to say, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I want to say it's just tied to your SIM and like your phone plan itself, not necessarily the actual iPhone.
That's a
Yeah, but
good
I don't know,
question.
because I thought they said it like intelligently detects like if you're using your phone or the watch, and it kind of hands off the ringing, right?
Yeah.
Or did I make that up in my head? Maybe I dreamed.
Maybe.
That's
I
how
mean, it could be
work.
possible that it does more stuff with, you know, the fancier your phone is.
Yeah, I mean, we should Google. I guess we could just search around and see.
No,
what
what
the
you
answer is.
what you should do is go ahead
iMore.com.
over to the iMore forums and then post it in the forums as a question.
They probably wrote about it already, and somebody else
Right.
flame you. Like, read the blogs. It's already there.
Exactly.
That's how we do
Some
it.
action happening on the iMore forums too.
Does Apple Watch Series 3 work with? Oh yeah. Android. iMore.com. Look at that. Can you use an Apple Watch with your Android phone? Can you pair your Apple Watch?
What's the
No,
answer?
it cannot.
Oh, but I can use AirPods with my Android.
But did they update it to?
Nice. I don't need them, but I was just curious.
Those are expensive too.
They are expensive.
Wait, they updated it, but they didn't update it to mention.
Can we talk about the
I'm
new
so
Pixels while
confused.
Kevin's distracted?
Yep.
I'm excited for those more so than the iPhone. I guess because I forget the last time I used an iPhone. It was probably like the 5S or something. So I don't really care about iOS, but I'm mildly excited for the Google event on whatever it is, October 4th, I think.
Yeah, October 4th.
I don't know. From everything we've read, like they're not like a massive upgrade to the Pixel, but it's going to be waterproof and stuff like that. Hopefully, and hopefully it won't be $1,000.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that much. But what I've saw of it, I mean, you know, out of the leaks and stuff like that, it doesn't look like a great device. But of course, who knows what the leaks actually end up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point now too where I just like to have a basic phone that does this job. So I mean, I use my KEYone, and then I have a Pixel XL that I'll switch between as well. But so I don't really care what it looks like. It's just the functionality for me. And like the Pixel XL still runs great, and having stock Android and getting updates. So like I have Oreo on it and the camera and everything. But so if it's an upgrade from that, where it's waterproof and stuff, and I think the Pixel was quite expensive when it came out originally, because I want to say that's why I didn't get it when it first came out last year.
Yeah, the Pixel XL was,
It was
like almost $1,000.
$800 or something.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't get that. So I'm
$800,
yeah,
$800, $900 Canadian somewhere.
and then you couldn't get it for like months anyway. So
yeah,
so
exactly.
So I'm hoping if the new ones come out that they're not super expensive. I mean, I don't think anybody buys phones like outright, straight out of pocket anymore. Everybody, they lease them or finance them or whatever it is. So I don't think it's that big of an issue, but it's still, I mean, $800 is $800.
I don't know. I buy my phones outright. That's why I have the right to complain.
You're Canadian, so
yeah, I'm not giving Rogers a contract anymore. I mean, it means the pricing is high, but I'm still not giving Rogers a contract.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be locked in.
So speaking of Android and operating systems, we can talk about how the Priv unfortunately is not going to get updated.
Yeah, man, that's unfortunate.
I don't know how long we want to talk about that, but I guess we should talk about it.
I don't know. I mean, it's disappointing to go ahead and have to relay that information to people, but at the same time, you have to consider that the device, BlackBerry controls that device. That's no longer, You know, that's not something that was put out by TCL or BlackBerry Mobile or anything like that. That was strictly a BlackBerry device, and BlackBerry owns that, and they've made the decision to not upgrade it. And I don't know, I was kind of bitter about it in the beginning. Like, why won't they just go ahead and update it like they should? But it did get one major update because it went from Lollipop to Marshmallow, which is fine. I mean, it went there. But then I started looking at the Android numbers, and I mean, realistically, only 15% of the Android phones out there, actually, a little over 15%, have Nougat anyways. So it's like, how can you be really mad at a device that's like nearly 2 years old, if not older?
Is that actually the numbers?
Yeah.
So the majority of Android phones are running something older than Nougat.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but
yeah, I mean, between like, what was it, Lollipop, Marshmallow, and Kit Kat, or in whatever, Nougat, the numbers are small because Android, Google puts the monthly numbers out, and I saw on the Android Central, it was like 15.6% or something like that are only running Nougat. So
Crazy.
yeah, it makes you kind of like wonder, like, why does Google keep putting a new OS out every year? I mean, I understand why they do it, but when the adoption rate is so low on the current OS, why? Just don't get it. But yeah, I mean, that's a bummer for people who were hoping to get Nougat. But at the same time, I mean, what was the expectation for it to get Nougat anyways? I think you know, as we always say in the forums, things get more louder and vocalized in the forums, but I don't think there was many people outside of the forums that were expecting to get Nougat on the Priv, so it's just one of them things.
And Priv owners who are disappointed can always upgrade to a shiny new BlackBerry Krypton at some point.
That's true. Or KEYone. Krypton. What do we know about Krypton? It passed FCC?
Yeah, we know that it passed through a lot of things and well on its way to a potential October release. It went through the Bluetooth special interest group, it went through the Wi-Fi Alliance, and it went through the FCC. So basically, I mean, all of those things, when you really look at the situation, it just means that it's progressing. We know that it's making its way through all of the appropriate channels. So.
I kind of want to work for all these organizations. What do you do for a living? I work for the Wi-Fi Alliance.
Right. I sit around and I test the Wi-Fi on phones all day long.
I test the Wi-Fi's.
All day.
The internet's got Wi-Fi's now.
But I mean, when there's plenty of information on CrackBerry to be able to go ahead and pull it up, but I mean, it breaks down to the full touchscreen device. Snapdragon 625, 4,000 milliamp per hour battery, and full touchscreen. So
okay, so did a context here. So that's got the Snapdragon. So basically the same one as the KEYone.
Yep.
What did the D-Techs both have? The 50 and 60.
The 50, I think I can't recall off the top of my head. I think the 50 was a 625, but the 60 was a Snapdragon 820.
820. Interesting. So what are you hoping to? Oh, we ran that survey. Yeah. I didn't post those results yet. Hey. Let's keep talking. I posted because we posted a survey to crackberry.com.
Yep. What matters most to you in a BlackBerry all-touch smartphone?
Yeah, it's literally in the.
And I was about to ask you, Blaze, like what matters. I was just going to ask you, like, what matters most to you, Blaze? I want to know.
I feel like I'm excited for the Krypton. I mean, I love the KEYone, but I think I'm past the point of physical keyboard, so I'm excited to have that device with a full touchscreen, you know, with the crazy battery, you know, just something that's a tank, like, you know, because you can't deny the KEYone's like heavy and it just feels good and you can like toss it around. I said for years, like I always loved this was my 9700 because I never felt like I could break it. You know, like I would always just throw it down on the table or toss it around and like I never ever worried about it. And same thing with the KEYone. Like I feel like, you know, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to like ding it somehow, but it's not going to like explode or shatter. Yeah. So I would love to have the Krypton just be, you know, just a straight up slab that's built like a tank that, you know, can take me through, you know, 4 days without charging it and just works great and has all the fun stuff inside of it.
Yeah, I would definitely say the time I spent on the DTEC 60, which was not super long. I mean, it was several weeks, but it wasn't like months and months. I dropped it not that hard and cracked it. It's probably, I think it's sitting around here someplace.
Still here on the table.
And I mean, it wasn't a bad fall. It cracked way too easy to live up to, like, you know, what I would expect from it. Didn't feel BlackBerry enough in the hand, for lack of a better word, you know. And I think, like, the thing I love about this is I pick up a KEYone and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a BlackBerry. Like, you could, I think if you blindfolded me and you just started passing me phones, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's a BlackBerry. And then I'd be like, no, that's not a BlackBerry. Yeah, that's a BlackBerry. And
that's what Kevin does at night before he goes to bed.
This KEYone. It's definitely BlackBerry. And I feel like the DTEC, I would never have been like, oh yeah, that's a BlackBerry, right? It was like a little too light, a little too thin, a little too something, something. And, you know, so I hope Krypton, when I pick it up, I'm like, okay, it's got that DNA that, you know, even with my eyes closed, I can feel it. And that's a harder thing on touchscreen phones in general to do.
Yeah.
But I guess that's always my goal for any BlackBerry going back a decade. It's like, I expect to pick it up and feel that, you know, tool-like utility feeling.
Tools, not toys.
I got somebody yelled at me for saying that on that interview. They're like, "There's Kevin using that tools, you know, tools not toys line," and I'm like, the interviewer loved it. It worked great for the audience.
People are weird.
It's fantastic. Okay, I've got our survey here.
Let's hear it.
I'm opening it now. I am analyzing the results. This will take 1 second. Bear with me.
Computing.
So we asked several questions. We had several, like over 2,000 respondents, and we only kind of pimped it there for a day, so that's pretty good. Okay, so the first question was, do you currently own an all-touch smartphone? If so, from what vendor? So for the people who said yes, 60% were BlackBerry people. We did have then Apple and Samsung users taking the quiz. A little bit of LG, very little anything else, a little bit of Google. Of those people, oh, you know what? That's why I have this survey filtered for people who said they would consider buying an all-touch BlackBerry smartphone, because some obviously just said no, because their keyboard, physical keyboard for life. Okay, please rate the top features you look at when purchasing a smartphone. Guess what rated the most popular? Battery life. Number 2, powerful processor. Number 3, very tight, like tightly tied here, screen size and privacy and security. Device durability. After that, fingerprint sensor, waterproofing were all important. Where do you prefer the placement of a fingerprint sensor? So, that's what we didn't talk about on the iPhone discussion, is on that iPhone 10. They got rid of the fingerprint sensor, and now they're going to unlock using your face, which that failed during their demo somewhat, and then it worked. They say they have it figured out, though, so it's easy, although I still think inconvenient. We should talk about that after. But we had almost 70% of the people say they prefer the fingerprint sensor on the front of the phone. Just under 30% prefer it on the back of the device, like you'd see on something like the Google Pixel. When asked, do you still want a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the phone? Close to 90% said yes. Very few don't feel the need for it. And then asking a similar question differently, this is really interesting. So pick 5 features that stand out as must-have aspects of a BlackBerry smartphone. What do you think number 1 is?
Convenience key.
Great battery life.
Damn it.
Number 2, great build quality. Number 3, regular security updates. Number 4, high-end CPU, which is interesting. After that, amazing camera, incredible multitasking, shatterproof screen. The lowest ones were actually wireless charging, programmable hardware keys, believe it or not, were like not that important, which is interesting.
Yeah,
because you think that's a big part of shortcuts. But shortcuts, it's a big part of the story. Does that mean nobody's using their shortcuts?
Sure. Yeah.
So coming back to fingerprint sensor location, you know, Apple is getting rid of it on this iPhone 10. And they're like, oh, it's really convenient. You just pick up the phone and like put it to your face, and then it's going to unlock, and then you swipe up. And I'm like, number one, you just failed when you said like pick up the phone and put it to my face, right? Because often when I use my phone, it's like I'm sitting at the table or at the computer, and I just want to like, I see a notification or something, and I don't actually want to pick up the phone at all. So I just, you know, I tap it with like, I have my, you know, this index finger, because it's a little weird to like do the thumbprint in that context. And I just touch the space bar and the screen powers up, and I just use it as a, you know, tablet lying there without ever picking it up. So I'm like, so now I'm going to have to be like this guy and go like this and like look down on the phone that's sitting on the table. I'm like, why do you want me to pick up my phone? I just want to like use it while it's lying there. So to me, that's annoying. And that's one of the reasons why I've always hate when they stick it on the back of the phone, because it's the same thing. So now I can't just like unlock the phone nicely while it's sitting there, right? I got to actually pick up the damn thing. So I voted 100% use it.
Yeah, I like it on the front. I have my KEYone and my Pixel. Like the KEYone, I like you said, I just do my index finger like on the desk from wherever I am, it unlocks. But like my Pixel, you know, I use a pattern on it, so it's not terrible because you can like tap it and swipe it. But on the iPhone, I mean, I would assume since they're Apple, does it just like shoot the face rays out straight, or do they like? I feel like they would span a good spectrum so that if you're, you know, if your phone's here and you're like sitting.
Yeah,
well, the setup process has you basically doing like all angles of your face.
Yeah, so I would feel like it kind of can shoot it out at an angle that would, you know, where you can just kind of like be over it enough. But I suppose.
But that's one of those things that works, you know, that works in theory. But how well does it work in practice, right? Like if I'm at the bar, if I'm at the bar or in a restaurant or whatever, and it's dark and, you know, dim lights.
Well, I think that was their big thing, because it's all infrared and, you know, it works in low light, bright light. But you got to figure if they completely got rid of the button and the fingerprint sensor, that it's got to work, you know, 99% of the time.
I mean, for the low cost of $1,000, you can find out how well it works in a month and a half.
It shoots laser beams at your face.
No, I'll be curious. Look, if it works really well, I mean, it could be the direction everybody goes. You know, Apple is in that position where, you know, they can set those trends if they do. I mean, you know, I think they were probably the first to do a really good fingerprint integration, and it became, you know, a standard that everybody quickly emulated, right? Whether it's Google, Samsung's, you know, the KEYone obviously has a crazy hidden sensor right in the space bar, which is magical.
So hidden.
And it works great, though. I love it.
I like the fingerprint sensor.
Because to be honest, I just never put passwords on my BlackBerries for years until I got
picture passwords. What is that?
Yeah.
What else we got?
That's pretty cool. I don't know. You're interviewing me. What would you like to talk about, Adam?
I don't know. I don't think that I have too much more to discuss with you, because you've been such an excellent guest, and I want to thank you for joining us on the CrackBerry podcast. I do miss your members only jacket before though.
I can put it back.
Do you have members only in Canada, or is that just like a reference that nobody understands?
Thanks for being here, Kevin Luck.
Oh, but that, you know what?
Kevin,
like people,
Luck.
It was spelled wrong under. They had it phonetically. So Blaze is referencing this interview in New York. And they had my name phonetically mispronounced on the teleprompter for her. So she read it correctly, but whoever did the typo had it like wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's funny, because I still say KEYone from the first time you were on Cheddar, because they had, I guess on their subtitles, like they do all caps. So it said KEYone in all caps, and the guy was pronouncing it KEYone. So I think ever since then, like I always just want to say KEYone, which is terrible, but it's kind of funny all at the same time.
Yeah, that is fine. You can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner. That's
but that's the thing, because you usually are late for dinner.
Yeah,
that's true. Today I did not eat or drink anything, so that this podcast would be short. Okay, so right before we jumped on the air, I did tweet out time to record a quick CrackBerry podcast before the weekend hits. Reply back ASAP with questions, topics you want us to cover. We have a few quick replies. So the techie guy says BlackBerry has bezel swipe in BB10. Now the iPhone X invents it, and the world goes, ooh, innovations in phones, and now it's marketing. I mean, I think that's not a new. I mean, Apple invented copy and paste 2 years later, and you know what I love is on Android Central they did I guess they did a like a fact thing afterwards, almost like how, you know, they check the political candidates after a debate to see who lied and who didn't.
Yeah.
The things that Apple, you know, kind of is taking credit for where it's not the case. And they're like, you know, Android Marketplace existed before the Apple App Store, that kind of thing. And I'm like, you know, guys, none of you invented that. Like CrackBerry had an app store, you know, the day the site launched in 07, and we were selling, you know, thousands of apps a day before ever like Android had it or Apple had it. And I'm like, you guys are all ripping off old stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Mom had it too.
I miss the CrackBerry App Store.
Yeah, the CrackBerry App Store is amazing.
It was amazing.
Another question from Rico for you, who we saw in Berlin. Thanks for visiting. That was an awesome time. With the success of the KEYone, do you have an initial TCL roadmap for BlackBerry Mobile for the rest of 2017 and 2018? Back on track. Yes, I know everything. No, I don't. Obviously, there is a Krypton, which just passed FCC, Wi-Fi Alliance, and BT SIG approval, and I want to work for all those companies. So that is obviously coming at some point. We'll see how that looks. And you know, I stand by. Look, when you call the phone a KEYone, like there's probably going to be a KEY2 at some point. And assumption would be that's, you know, in essence, that is BlackBerry's or BlackBerry Mobile's, like, you know, let's think of it as iPhone or Galaxy S device, right? Like, when did you expect a new one each year? You know, it's like, okay, here's this is the, because I don't know, like, and we've said this since very early on, I don't know what I would change on this thing to make it,
I'd put the bold 9900
demonstrably better. Like, you have, I think, a winning design. You put the trackball on?
No, I don't know.
No, the 9900 keyboard.
The 9900 keyboard. Maybe a trackpad.
Well, that has come up in the forums.
So the spacebar could be a fingerprint sensor and the trackpad.
I just got a message. I got a message when I picked up my phone, so I'm very quickly replying. I can multitask so well on keyboard.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, you could see like little things tweaking and changing, but like you're not going to be like, okay, that form, like for years when you followed BlackBerry, it was like they weren't happy with any design. It's like, here's a pearl, here's a curve, here's this. It's like, guys, just make the perfect phone, and you don't need to change the design dramatically every 6 months when you do another phone, right? So I'd expect that, but I don't know. I mean, I think I would be happy with a new KEYone each year, and then I guess the question is, you know, if there's a Krypton, are you going to stay KEYone or are you going to go Krypton?
Done.
Really?
Krypton.
You're see, and I think I'm like back on keyboards. I love it.
I mean, I'm down with the keyboard, but I just don't think like it's made for me anymore. Like I like the touchscreen experience, but that's where I've been torn forever. Like I love the KEYone, but I'm just not necessarily the keyboard. So I think the Krypton, I was telling my buddy today, like if it's the same meat and guts and it feels like a tank and it's, you know, immune to everything and it's amazing, then I'll definitely rock that out.
I don't know, man. I tend to go where the specs are and performance level. If a slab is going to have a better performance level than a keyboard, then I'm perfectly fine with giving up the keyboard. You know what I mean?
You're an Amity typer. You can type on keyboards or touchscreen.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I can switch from both.
Well, maybe I'll be a KEYone guy. I'm on the buttons again. I love them. Pushing buttons. That could be the name of this.
That's like your motto.
This podcast.
CrackBerry Kevin button pusher since 2007.
Throw it on a t-shirt.
Watch out.
Anything else, Adam, or would you like to wind down your interview?
No, I think.
Oh wait, questions. Let me see if we had any left.
Oh my god.
What? This podcast hasn't even been an hour, has it?
Oh, it's amazing. People like them under an hour.
Now that BB is Android, do you foresee a redo to Password Keeper to make it more user-friendly to other Droid phones?
No.
So I don't think so, because I think there's better cloud-based solutions like LastPass or, you know, that, which integrate into Android and the cloud in your computers.
Yeah, 1Password.
Yeah.
They've already added a few things to it, like the autofill and everything like that. I don't think you're going to get much more out of it because BlackBerry has never been about recreating the wheel anyway. So
yeah, I would. My hunch would be no, unless they can do a demonstrably better thing. You know, like there's some surprises. Oh, I love this. My favorite part of the interview was when the interviewer person we had, she actually brought up, she's like, I'm really into privacy security. And then I showed her this beautiful feature of the privacy shape, which is really what you should change your convenience key to be, because I use it all the time now. Which when it first came out, I was like, that's kind of a dumb idea for an app. And then I was like, you know what, it's actually pretty good. So then you could take it and you can drag it around. And she was mind blown. She was like, that's amazing. I will go buy a KEYone right now. So that's a super clever feature that clearly, like, I don't think anybody else had ever thought about other than the BlackBerry team, who's probably, I was going to make some Canadian, they're probably out on the weekend, smoke, vaping some stuff. I won't say what substances. And they're like, guys, we're a software company now. We need to do more stuff that's crazy good, privacy, security. What do we do? And then one guy's probably on his phone, like watching, and he's like, yeah, I shouldn't be doing this in public. And then he's like, hey, well, what if I had an app where I could just, see the parts I want to, and while riding on the commute, let's code it up. Parts. Let's just do it. No, I'm sure that's not how that came around at all, but it's a brilliant feature.
I'm pretty sure it actually is.
I'm sure the people are listening. This is the funny thing, is I'm sure the people are listening, and I'm sure. So I have money on the bet. I'm going to get to the bottom of it, but you know how there's gestures on iPhone 10. I'm going to put money on it being an ex-BlackBerry guy working at Apple now who coded that software himself.
It's quite possible.
I have names in my head, and I'm like, I know who it is, and I just want to ask him. I'm like, did you feel like you were going to catch on fire the day you typed those ones and zeros? He coded it. They don't actually code in ones and zeros. That's a lie. They use compilers for their
They use X's and O's because they're Apple.
It would be a lot.
I'd be more impressed if they
ones
coded
and zeros.
1-0-0-1-1-0. All right, last questions. Talk about Krypton. We actually did that already. And update us on the BlackBerry Aurora. It's been ages. Thanks. So the only thing, I don't have much to say on it. We talked about it a few episodes ago. So if you didn't hear that podcast, go back to it, because Blaze got one. I got one. It's a bit of a snoozer in a sense, because it's lacking some stuff. Like, it doesn't have a fingerprint. Well, but it didn't have a fingerprint sensor, right? It didn't have NFC. So even when I was like switching over to it, I was like, why can't I just tap my KEYone to my Aurora and set it up? Once it's booted up, it actually had a good BlackBerry DNA to it. Like, you picked it up and it felt BlackBerry-ish. It had sort of like it could belong next to a Z10 or Z30. So I like the general feel. But then it was just a little bit where they, they took it 65%. And not that they had to even take it 100%. It's like if they would have taken it up to 80%, I think it would be a more compelling overall experience. So it's kind of like almost, but just needs a little bit more love. For us, I think there's people who would get it and like it, especially at the price point, a reasonable price point. But I think on my take would be no.
It's also 5 months behind on security updates.
Yeah, that's a problem. You should write a blog post about that.
That's nice.
So I was arguing.
Who do you even blame for that?
This is CrackBerry division of labor. Like, Blaze, you're the one who has to do all the complaining about software updates and dig into that. Kevin is the BlackBerry KEYone advocate sales guy, because it's my favorite thing. That's what I like to do. Adam, you just voice of reason and grunt work when we have to get it all done behind the scenes.
Perfect. Makes terrible jokes.
Update all that. What did you say he does?
Makes terrible jokes.
My jokes are cheeky and fun. What are you talking about? Just because you're Canadian and don't understand them, it's not my fault.
Look, I appreciate your jokes. I really do. I was just joking about your terrible jokes.
And with that, that's another edition of the CrackBerry.com podcast.
No.
Brought to you
by
the BlackBerry KEYone.
We have one final thing to actually go ahead and make sure that we mention, and it's only something small, but it's interactive for our users. So make sure that you go check out the contests that are currently running on crackberry.com. We do have a KEYone Black Edition. You can win one that just went up today, so make sure that you get your entries in for that. There's also a contest for some cases from Satchel, which are basically their genuine leather cases for the BlackBerry KEYone. And they smell so good. I love the smell of leather. Anyways, there's 6 days left on that contest, so make sure that you get your entries in for that one too. And now Kevin can take us out.
Kevin's very busy now, apparently.
I'm typing. I can't. You made me ignore this phone.
It's so amazing.
So one last question: which with me looks better? Do you think if I rock like the black KEYone to my ear side profile, or if I rock the silver one?
I feel like you need a blue one, given your attire.
Well, here I'll take off my. What do you call it? A club jacket?
No, a
members only jacket.
Attire.
Okay. So now, which looks better?
Oh.
Is it the black one?
I don't know.
Or it was Fashion Week in New York, so I'm all to fashion.
Tough call.
No,
I feel
see,
like
I like the silver one.
Yeah, I feel like the silver one looks better.
Maybe the better. Like it's actually a more eye-catching accessory.
More photogenic.
Like that looks.
Well, you can't see the BlackBerry logo on the other one.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I never thought about which actually is the
It's
better.
also good because you can't see the AT&T logo on the new AT&T one.
I think
Yeah,
that's
for photos and
interesting.
stuff. The silver is much
The
better.
silver's money.
Yeah, because even if you
You know,
hold
to
the black
look at
one
it, like
close,
when I
you
looked
can't
at, yeah, but when I look down at them in my hand, I'm like, oh, that black one is nice.
should
But
never
when I
look
see
down
it
on
in my
BlackBerry.
reflection in this. No, you know what? Don't put words in my mouth. You could go work for CNN or something. No, okay.
That's why I haven't been in any hurry to import one, like a black one. Like I don't care
Yeah, as
about
much
the
as I like
AT&T
it, it's
black
like,
one. As much as I like it, I don't. I can wait until it arrives in Canada. I don't care about it.
my Krypton. Look at those guns.
All right. Peace out, everybody. We will talk to you soon from an undisclosed location on planet Earth.
What?
Area
CrackBerry
51.
out. I'm actually going to hit the stop button now.